to, okay, sounds good. Richard, I'm going to rename you. And we're just about ready to go. Just a minute now. Continue. Hey, Laura. Kim. Kim, what is your last name?
I am Kim Keith Brown from the Terlinda Homeowners Association.
That's right. I was copied something from you today. Welcome.
So yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. We have a lot of Terlinda folks, which is great. Sarah McClendon, where are you from?
San Rafael, Montmorin, or Montmorin, San Rafael Park.
Okay, I'm never quite sure what order to put it in either.
Well, I know, clearly I'm confused.
Welcome. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll start. We're being recorded. My name is Amy Lykover. My husband Joe and I live in Gerstle Park, and I'm the president of the Fed, and this is one of our general meetings. And a general meeting is when we invite a speaker or it's topic oriented. This will be followed by a steering committee meeting. We have a steering committee of 9, and we deal with issues that have come to us before. So you're all welcome to stay past 7:45-ish when we'll be done with the speaker segment. But first I'm going to introduce the steering committee members who are here. Just wave. And yeah, so Richard Bernstein, where did you go? All of a
Whoops,
sudden.
hang on. I'll be back.
It's a video. So Richard is, he's our vice president from what he calls California Park, which is, what's the other name for it?
Lomita Park.
Lomita Park. So that's in an unincorporated part of San Rafael. And anyway, so as you come in, if you're not named, go ahead and rename yourself. So I see an iPad. If you just go to the little three white dots on your picture and click on rename and put your name. So we get to know who's here. Anyway, I see Joss Robertson, hello, from Gerstle Park. There's Sean, hello. Bill Gadecki, I'm unfamiliar with you. Where are you from?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm in West End. The backyard's actually in San Anselmo.
Fabulous, wonderful. And then Katie, and then there's the iPod, and Mary Kelly. We haven't heard where you're from. But I was introducing steering committee members. There's Richard, who's the vice president. There's me, who's the president. Jay Hubert is from Dominican. You want to just wave? And Kevin Haggerty is from Glenwood, down near Point San Pedro Road.
I'm gonna.
Okay, and then Daniel Alm is in West End. Did I forget anyone? Oh, and then Kate Powers is in Terlinda.
And Jim.
And Kate, you want to wave? And then Jim Draper is in Bret Harte.
I'm just gonna say.
So, Katie, what neighborhood are you in?
So, Montecito, and I'm here with Bill, and we live on Park Street, and we're eating dinner. So we are going to turn off video.
No problem. And Marie Kelly, where are you? All right. So, folks, I'm going to just ask everyone to mute yourself. I'm going to stay unmuted unless Gus starts meowing too loudly. And what I'm going to do at this point in time, I've mentioned that the first half of our meeting is what's called a general meeting, where we have a speaker. We're very lucky to have with us Lucy Croy from Marin Municipal Water Department, and she's been with them for 6 years and can tell you a little bit about herself before she dives into the program. And once she's done, I'm guessing maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, she'll entertain your questions at the end. And then Richard, if you would be so kind to call on people when they have questions, I would be grateful. Okay, so let's everybody mute ourselves. And Lucy, go ahead and you can share your screen if you'd like and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you all for having me tonight. I'm going to show my screen. Pull this up. Get this going. So, oops, went to the wrong place, of course, as if this isn't the first time I've been in a Zoom meeting and showing a presentation. Thank you all for the opportunity tonight to speak to you. My name is Lucy Croy, and I'm the Water Quality Manager at Marin Municipal Water District. I've been there for about 6 years. I'm an engineer by trade and work in our operations department, and am helping lead the drought response right now. Tonight, I'm going to give a quick overview about the Water District if you're not familiar. Give an overview of our water supply currently, the water use restrictions that have come out in the last few months, and then move into some conservation tips, as well as the conservation incentives and resources that we have available to our customers. And then afterwards, we can get into some Q&A. So quickly, a bit of background about the district. We are the oldest in the state of California, and we serve about 191,000 customers in Marin. In addition to serving water, we also preserve the Mount Tam watershed. And that really shows in our mission, which is to manage not only our natural resources, but provide reliable water to our customers at a reasonable price. So where does our water come from? It is 75% of it comes from the Mount Tam and from the West Marin watersheds. So the Kent Lake, Bontempi, Phoenix Lake reservoirs, as well as out west, Suluhuli and Nicasio, if you've ever been out there. And then we get another 25% of our water from the Sonoma County Russian River system. So we purchase about 25% of our water from Sonoma County and bring it down from there. It takes about 24 hours for it to go from the reservoirs to your tap. And all along that, it's tested and treated to make sure that we provide you very fresh water for a reasonable price. So why am I really here today? It's more about our water supply and the current situation with the drought. Over the last two years, we've had very dry winters. So 2020 by itself was the second driest year in 90 years. And moving into 2021, we're finding that it's actually even drier. So over the last 16 months, we're seeing that it's the lowest amount of rainfall in 140 years. For a system that is based mostly on reservoir storage, that's left us in a dire situation. Going into the summer months, our current reservoir storage is about 47% of total capacity, which is the lowest that we've been at over the last 40 years. So. There we go. So this chart is showing a projection of reservoir storage over the next year and a half or so, starting a little bit with historical data. So looking back from 2020, we started almost at full, and then we've moved down to now May, June. And looking ahead, we see that we could end up closer to around 15,000 acre feet. Acre feet is the unit of storage that that we use for reservoir storage in the water supply world. With conservation, with the 40% target that we've put out, the call for 40% conservation, we can bump that up pretty considerably. And so you can see from this dashed blue line to the solid line, that's really the difference of conservation over the coming months. This is really just another chart showing, as I mentioned before, how dire the rainfall has been. So on average, we usually hit around 52 inches of rain. This orange line is the 1976-77 rainfall, which some of you may remember how little that was. And in 2019, 2020, we hit about 60% of our average. And going into this year, we're now at 39%. So we've been averaging just even lower than that. So even lower than the 77 drought. As I mentioned, going into the summer months, we're at our lowest storage level. And that's really why we're asking for so much conservation. So This chart is showing that as of June 1st, we have just under 40,000 acre feet. As I mentioned, under 50% of our total storage. On average, we would be at 70,000 acre feet. So considerably higher. So over the past few months, going into February, we recognized that 2020 had been very dry, severely dry actually, and that's when the board declared, the Marin Water Board declared a drought and asked for voluntary conservation. And we hoped at that point that over the next few months of the spring that we'd get enough rainfall to stay within that stage and just continue with that call for action. But unfortunately, this year has turned out to be even drier. So moving into April, we declared a water shortage emergency and adopted mandatory water use restrictions. Shortly after just the next board meeting, we adopted additional irrigation restrictions. So that's the irrigation restrictions to limit 2 days per week. Since this has been updated over the last month or two, the board has been considering restrictions on new connections and will continue to consider those restrictions. The staff brought to the board a proposed ordinance at the last board meeting at the first meeting of June, and the board asked for us to come back on the 15th with additional information about how much water is used by the proposed developments before making any decision moving ahead. So that's one thing that's going on right now as well. And then looking ahead through July and August, there may be a call for additional irrigation restrictions. So ramping up to like maybe 1 day or 0 days of irrigation. So that's on the docket right now for the board to consider. And they have considered, we've had discussions at the last 2 board meetings about those potential options as well. So currently, the goal is a 40% reduction in overall water use, limiting spray irrigation to 2 days per week. Drip irrigation is to 3 days a week, and there's no limit on hand watering. Pool covers are required for pools and spas, and there's kind of an assortment of other restrictions to not waste water. A few other ones that we've done are restricting any gutter flooding and fixing leaks within 48 hours. Golf course irrigation is also restricted to just greens and tees. And then also on the commercial side, not using potable water for dust control or sewer flushing, and having those users instead use recycled water. So we've moved quite a bit of users over to our recycled water system. Our approach all along has been really focusing on education and including a process for variances. We know that going into this, it happened rather quickly for both our customers, and we may not have considered all situations. So there are exemptions for hardship or health and safety reasons, and those variances can be submitted to the district at our website through an email address, variance@marinwater.org. Violations to the restrictions that I listed before can be submitted as well. So if you see water waste going on, the first violation would just be a written warning to that customer, and the second violation would receive a $25 fine, and subsequent to that would be a $250 fine. You can find a lot more information on our website at marinwater.org/water rules. That's where we keep the most updated information as things change. So in all of this, conservation is really essential, focusing on our landscape irrigation and minimizing that use to just the essentials and what is valuable to our customers. So turning off our sprinkler systems and hand watering when necessary, And then also replacing lawns if available with water efficient landscaping. So there's also opportunities in the drought to look back at our lifestyles and figure out, where are we using water in ways that are a bit more wasteful. And I think that's what's come up lately for even us, turning off the water when we brush our teeth, taking shorter showers inside the house. And I spoke with Amy ahead of time, and one thing she mentioned is really, that there's questions about how much water everyone should be using, and one of the goals that we've set, it's not so much a goal but a guidance for our customers is really that the outside use should be guided by the restrictions that we've set. So the 2 days of irrigation, along with the 3 days of drip. But inside the house, it's really, there's guidelines out there by the state, and there's guidelines from the industry that really say between 35 to 55 gallons per person per day is a very efficient household. So if you have questions about what that means, I'm happy to answer that afterwards, but I wanted to note that ahead of time. So in addition to asking for the conservation, we've included quite a bit of programs and incentives that were not only existing with Marin Waters programs, but have ramped up quite a few as well. So we have free phone consultations to help find conservation programs and rebates that work best for you. And we provide free shut-off nozzles and water efficient shower heads. There's actually, this coming weekend, on the 12th, there's going to be a drought drive-by is what they're calling it. Because of COVID, there's no, it was going to be a kind of stay for a while, but there's none of that right now. So everybody can just drive through and pick up free buckets, free water efficient shower heads and aerators. So there's a lot of opportunity this weekend. And there's 3 locations within our service area. One's at the San Rafael Community Center, another one at the Marin Water office in Corte Madera, and then the third one is in the Mill Valley Community Center, but probably San Rafael Community Center is the closest. So as I mentioned, programs and incentives. One of the programs that we're highlighting right now is our lawn replacement rebate. The board just approved increasing this rebate program from $1 to now $3 per square foot. And that's to convert high water use lawns to water efficient landscaping. And that program will run through October. And then we also have a free sheet mulching service as well, where local nonprofit will install mulching materials and cap overhead sprinklers. And then after the drought, the area can be replanted with water efficient landscaping. So opportunities to use this drought to kind of change how we use our water outside the house as well. We also have a couple programs that have really taken off as well. So irrigation controllers, that the district will provide some of the financing, as well as a clothes washer rebate. And then trying to find, okay. And then the laundry to landscape rebate, that's another one that we run some webinars periodically and then have kits available. So June 9th, what is today? Today is I think we just missed it. So there's probably, there'll probably be another one upcoming that will be available if you're interested as well, or you can reach out. And then another one is a rain barrel and cistern rebates. So switching over to reusing rainwater for irrigation. And we provide up to 50 cents per gallon of storage. So this is the one I was trying to get to, is our flume rebate. This one has taken off so much so that we're having trouble keeping up with it. It's a real-time data in which you attach to your meter, and it allows the customer to then understand how much water they're using. So it's a pretty easy install. It basically just rubber band it to the meter. And the district pays $115 and the customer pays $50. So you'd only pay $50. And it's a pretty easy app to use, and you can see on a 15-minute basis how much water you're using. And it's very informative. It's much more in line with some of the technology we're used to than a 2-month billing cycle. And then the other ones that we've included are a hot water recirculating system rebate as well as pool cover rebate. So in the drought, it's really about a grassroots effort. It's about spreading the word, and that's why I'm here today. We really appreciate your time and allowing me to speak. We know it's not easy to make these changes, but we have a lot of tools available, and we're open to having conversations and want to hear in what ways we can help make this easier. We know it kind of came on quickly, especially this year. So there's free conservation yard signs as well that can be picked up from our admin building for Madera. And then there's quite a bit of information on our website as well as on social media. And that is the end of my presentation. Let's see, so I'll stop sharing that one now. Okay.
At this point in time, I would be very grateful if you could, and I thank you for having shared all the information about water conservation. Joe and I got a flume. It's a smart, a thing that has to connect with your Wi-Fi. But if you're okay with that, it certainly helps you monitor your usage big time. But turning towards the new normal, as you and I discussed, if you could talk a little bit about what we have down the road, even this summer still, and what you anticipate between now and hopefully the rainy season, even if it comes as late as December.
So what I anticipate and what the board will be considering over the next few months are many hard decisions, and that's why it's important for the community to make sure that they work with their local district director as well, and speak up early too. But over the next, first and foremost, there is the irrigation restrictions. So right now we're at 2 days per week. We're seeing about a 15% savings right now. We're calling for about 40%. We're seeing about a 15% water savings across the board. And that's very recent. Just as of a week or two before that, it was about 5%. So maybe we're getting somewhere, but we don't know yet. So we may need to ramp it up more, but that's one consideration that the board will have over the next 2 board meetings to think about and to consider how to move ahead to make sure that we have enough water come December and into the next year if it's dry, if it continues to be dry. The other consideration is new connections and the suspension of new connections, as I mentioned. So that was brought to the board over a couple meetings this last month or two, and it's still being considered. It's going to take a few iterations, I think, for them to decide which direction to go. And I encourage every customer to work with their director and speak up for so right now we don't know necessarily where that will go, but those are probably 2 of the biggest topics, I would say.
In the news this morning was the possibility of installing the water pipe across the bridge.
Yeah.
How realistic does that seem to you from where you sit?
So realistic, it's a good question. It's hard to think about anything realistic right now, but we have to be ready is the way we're approaching all of this. And it's more about if the next year is dry, if we go into the next November, December, and the coming winter is as dry as we've seen the last 2 years, where will that leave us in making sure that we have enough drinking water for our customers? So in that situation, we need to have everything ready to have the connections or have the supply ready for our customers. So we are working on feasibility studies, and I mean, these are very quick feasibility studies, but it's under an emergency scenario, right? It's to have a pipeline across the bridge and have water transfers from another area in the state, as well as looking at desalination and emergency desalination. And these are only under the condition that we have another dry year. So.
All right, Richard, at this point in time, do you want to open it up to questions?
Well, actually, unfortunately, I'm on my iPad tonight. There's been some competition in my household for the computer and I lost, so I'm not in a position to monitor. But since you called on me before you deal with incoming questions, I would like to ask a question and sort of expand. First of all, Lucy, thank you very much for joining us. This is clearly, something that we are all concerned about. We are all looking at. And I have to share with you that I'm a little disappointed at the almost offhand mention of the connection across the bridge and emergency desal. For a feasibility study, I mean, as you well know, there already was a pipeline across the bridge delivering 10,000 or 10 million gallons a day to Marin. It was done in 76. So we know it can be done. We know how to do it. It may affect traffic. And I know that they're considering a permanent pipeline suspended either from the upper or the lower deck, as opposed to taking away a lane of traffic. But hoping it rains next year hardly seems to be a solid business strategy. And it would seem to me the board should be actively considering how do we, let's say it does rain a lot next year. And then 2 years from now, we get 3 consecutive or 4 consecutive, because we know that climate change is upon us. So why isn't the board making it a higher priority to, in the worst case, duplicate what we did in 76 and then redo it if you need to for the pipeline, and actively find a permanent solution to desalination. So you are providing a supply independent or less dependent on rainfall, because we can serve so much. Your presentation told us what we have to do, but nowhere in your presentation did it mention what MMWD has to do. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm delighted you're here, but you knew you were going to get this question tonight. Let me get it away first.
That's a great comment. We are right there with you. It's a matter of cost and where that cost goes. So finding the funds, in the long term has always, I think, held back certain pursuits of water supply for the district, for additional water supply, and conservation will always be our cheapest water supply. So in this situation, if this becomes something where it is beyond that, then you're absolutely right.
So how long are you going to wait to have that question answered by Mother Nature? I mean,
We're not waiting.
If we try to do it now, we're going to be scrambling. So if a year from now we say, oh, gee, we had another dry year, we better get busy and do something about it. I mean, it should be in process now, it would seem.
Well, it is in process. If I didn't make that clear, I'm sorry. So we have much of it underway. We have numerous contracts underway in which we have civil firms lined up. And we're talking to Caltrans, we're working with Caltrans. They're doing a study to figure out where they would put it permanently. So it's not to be considered for temporary if we to do it.
All right, I'm going to now call on Kate Powers, who has her hand up, and then after Kate will be Lori. And after Lori will be John. Go ahead, Kate. Kate?
Sorry. Hi, Lucy.
Hi.
So my my concern about water transfers and Russian River water, and depending on our neighboring water districts, is that this whole state of California is in drought, and the whole West Coast is possibly in a mega drought. And so what I understand is that the districts are looking at different scenarios and different opportunities for solutions, including sharing some from Mike McGuire's town hall, and possibly working with the Sonoma Water District on sharing some underground reservoirs to capture the atmospheric rivers that come through during heavy rainfall. And I'm just wondering if, and exploring a temporary desal plant. I'm wondering if MMWD is considering more storage, more reservoirs, or is that not an opportunity anymore within the watershed and within the water districts watershed? Because we tend now to get heavy rainfalls, but not as much rainfall over a period of time.
It's a good question. It's challenging to know which, upfront, which road is going to lead you to the most success. And with reservoirs, what we've found in this day and age, the temperature for building new dams leads to not much more storage on the potable water side. So we release a significant amount of our water to environmental releases from Kent Lake because of the dam raise that we did in 1983 in that habitat that's in that region. And what we expect is that if we were to go down a similar road anywhere else in our watershed, we would be above and beyond any of that already. So
I'm wondering also about increasing recycled water use for landscapes, especially. Is that something that I know that North Marin Water District spent $30 million on, getting pipe to the large landscapes in Novato and some other places, and they have more water than they have places to put it right now. So I'm just wondering.
yeah. So we also purchase water from Las Colinas Valley Sanitary District along with North Marin, and just financed a lot going into them upgrading their recycled water system. So we are looking into expanding our system in areas where it's cost effective. And I think, in times of drought and looking at really the cost of water in these situations is very different than in normal years. And that will push us forward. So I expect we will see more opportunities going ahead.
Thanks. Thank you. Lori, you have a question?
I do, thank you. That was a great presentation. I would like to know, where money for the rebates come from. I would like to share with everybody that's here that I was at the farmer's market this past Sunday, and two of the vendors will be closing down, two vendors that have come, I know them as being there all the time, will not be vending after the end of June because they're closing down their farms because of water. I find that infuriating that these people feed us and that there are people that, I'm sure everybody else knows them who goes to the market and who buys their food there versus hookups, and it seems like very cruel.
Okay, thank you.
But the rebates was important. Where's that money coming from?
You mean how do we fund it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where we fund it, but I can get that information for you.
Thank you. And then John Rojas and then Sean McGuire.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucy, for your presentation. I have a question about new hookups for the apartment buildings that are being constructed right now, such as the assisted living building that's on Redwood Highway in Terra Linda here. That's an awful lot of hookups. And, the municipal water district is asking all of us to be conserving. And yet, if we had more hookups, that certainly is going to cause a major problem, especially, with the way things are going. I know we're up against builders and lots of money and lots of pressure. So how is the water district going to deal with those?
I think, as I mentioned before, it's going to churn a bit. So the board has considered at the last board meeting an ordinance to suspend new connections. And at that board meeting, they felt that they needed more information about how much water each new development uses in comparison to our overall demand, because the long-term impacts financially, economically, are large. So coming back on June 15th, staff will be providing the board additional information about the quantity of water used by the new developments. And I expect that even in July, there won't necessarily be a decision moving ahead. As I mentioned, please, our board meetings are the first and the third Tuesday of each month at 7:30. You can also email comments. I believe that Director Monty Schmidt is the director for probably most of your region. And he would, it would be very informative to hear from each of you. So it's a very controversial topic.
That's important to know. So folks who are here because of additional water hookups, be sure to email Monty Schmidt, and his email address is on their website. Okay, Sean McGuire. After Sean, I'm going to go to Leslie Simons and then Mark.
Thank you.
Sean?
Sure thing. Thank you for the excellent presentation. I have two questions. The first one is, in being in touch with Aqua Association of California Water Agency years ago, I learned that there's senior water rights to junior and so on. If we find ourselves in a multi-year drought and we end up running the pipe across the bridge, how do we know we're going to get the water? Understanding that, there's farmers just outside the dams that have senior rights. They claim that they will get the water first before other people down the path. Will agriculture be passed in order to get the water to living communities? And what assurances do we have there? The second question is on the flume. If you're in a multi-unit building, can we still install those for each unit, or is that just for the main coming into the building?
So I don't know on the flume. I'm going to hit that one first. I live in a multi-unit too, and I've been wondering the same thing. So I will find out.
Joe just said if you have your own water meter, you can have it.
Okay.
But you have to have your own water meter.
Okay. So with the senior water rights, that is the question of the water rights. I would of the water transfers, and that is the risk of it all. It's simple to build a pipe across the bridge. The complexity is that once water is rare, but I think, the more conversations we have, the more we are finding that water can be bought. It's just at a certain price. So it's ensuring that we buy it from the right place.
And so to answer his question about the senior water rights, they would have the first dibs. Is that?
Yes. So a bit more context is that senior water rights in California are extremely complex and a place beyond itself. But senior water rights usually have the most seniority, and so finding senior water rights would be more important. So finding access to get those first. Yeah.
Okay. Leslie. Leslie Simons.
Hi. I own a duplex. I have 2 water meters. one for the lower and one for me. I have always been 1/4 of what my neighborhood uses and 1/5 of what the general population of Marin County uses. How am I going to be, I mean, I can't cut back anymore. I haven't irrigated my landscape in several years. And we are all, both of my meters are well under. How am I going to be affected by, I mean, that's terrifying. I don't flush my toilet now.
We hear you, and that's why we have approached the conservation and the restrictions the way we have, is that we haven't put limits. We haven't put limits that have reduced, say, you necessarily. We put an overall 40% target on the general use, but that's only if you have the place to the opportunity to do it. So those that are most efficient, we know that those customers are already doing the most they can, and we appreciate that. I think what we ask, no worries. What we ask for is that, you know, you talk to your neighbors and that you help get the word out of what is higher water use, and what is water waste, because not everybody does understand that. So
Thank you.
it's a hard place to be in, but thank you. We appreciate your efforts a lot.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, you may have brought this up earlier, but it seems to me that with the quixotic weather patterns, sooner or later, we're going to have desalination. And I would love a rough idea. How much would it actually increase? I know how it's expensive. How much would it actually increase each individual user? Can it be done without using up tremendous amount of energy, say solar or something like that? And if they decided to do that, what would be the time that it would take to actually bring a plant on board?
So under these conditions right now, we're looking at an emergency desal plant that would be ready to go. If next year was dry, this winter, we would have it built next spring and then have it ready to go for the following fall. And we've, you know, through our studies so far and working with vendors, that seems to be feasible. The seems to be a timeline that's achievable. As far as cost, I wish I could give you that answer right now. We don't know yet. But what we would hope is that under an emergency situation, we could get a lot of funding from either grants or from, you know, some kind of alternative source.
Do you have a
Much, if there was an emergency implementation, how much of the water need would that take care of? What fraction?
So right now we're looking at so of the winter demand, we would be looking about a third of our demand right now. A third of our winter demand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if I may interrupt you, Mark, I'm sorry. What would be the chosen location for the desal plant?
It would be over towards the over towards the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. So over towards that rod and gun.
Okay.
Well, but Lucy, the summer is when we're really concerned most. What fraction would it be of the summer?
Well, of the summer, it depends on how much. I mean, we would still need a lot of conservation. So if we got to that point, we would be, I think, holding a pretty steady conservation level as well. So I would say right now our peak summer demand is around 35 million gallons per day. The whole usage of the whole system, 35 is the peak. We're seeing about a 15% decrease right now. So right now we're around, like, when I say 35, that's usually July, August. I think we can probably get desal around a 2 to 5 MGD. So 2 to 5 million gallons for emergency is what we're looking at.
All right, Mark, thank you. I'm going to go to the next question, just a second. Katie? Are you there?
Yes, I am, and we've stopped eating dinner. This was really helpful. Thank you. I think another questioner, the answer to another questioner gave me part of my answer as I'm reflecting on our situation. I think I understood in the beginning of the presentation that can we call as customers to talk to somebody about our situations to kind of review, you know, if we're doing all that we can. We also do have some medical treatment that we do at home that actually uses a lot of water.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure that we are doing what we can, but there's certain things that we can't do. So is that correct that we can call someone to talk about our individual situations?
Absolutely. Our conservation department, so I'm looking right now. If you want the phone number, it's 415, sorry, there's work in my apartment. 415-945-1520. That's our conservation department.
I'm just going to get it down and I'll put it in chat.
415-945-1520. And you will get someone. It may be a little bit of a backlog right now, a day or two, but hopefully they'll get back to you.
Okay.
But you know, as I said before, we're really focusing on irrigation right now. So I just want to hit that one again.
Okay. Okay. Well, I do have a garden, so
Yeah.
there's a distinction, irrigation and drip. So
Right.
if I'm doing 2 days of drip, then I'm okay. Okay. But it sounds like too, I can see my bill's going to cut off. My meter's probably is going to be read tomorrow. So I'll be getting my bill soon. And so that's
Yeah.
going to be kind of my starting point.
Yeah.
So because the bills are, you know, because it's 2 months, you really don't have an idea of how you're doing. So I guess that's where that flume comes in.
It is. You can look at your 2-month bill, and there should be some better language in it. They've updated it recently to say, you know, to guide you through how much usage it is. And, you know, you would just divide it by 60 and see how much that is per day.
Mm-hmm.
So that would help a little bit. We're trying to work on getting some more guidance too on our website that walks people through how to understand how much they're using. But it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds like though, right now it's education and people's conscientiousness, I guess, but the overall goal is just general reduction. And so I don't have to worry about the water police knocking on my door.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, and even if there was water police, it would be first and foremost a warning. Always. we do not want to be the water police. There's no, believe me.
Well, actually, I care, and so if I feel guilty, it's good. That'll be a motivator.
Yeah.
That was, it was really interesting. Thank you. It was a good presentation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Katie. Laura, you have a question? Laura?
Trying to unmute myself, yes. Thank you, Lucy, and thank you for all the hard work. I was at the recent board meeting, and I know that everybody is working really hard. Though I'm feeling very concerned when I'm hearing what you're stating today and what I heard at the board meeting, there are a lot of these vague terms like hopefully, and we're waiting to see, you know, if we get water in January, and we're talking about normal years. I don't know if there really will be any, quote, normal years. You're also depending on conservation, expecting 40%. That is not a guarantee. So the question is, you know, here we are in 2021, and I understand that we've been having problems since way back in the 70s where, you know, we've had droughts and other issues that, you know, we had pipelines of water at certain points. So what specifically is the plan for long-term water use, not just a fix for right now? And will these changes that you're talking about, are these going to be actually permanent? Or are we talking about, well, hopefully when maybe the water returns and we have a few normal years, we're going to then fall back and keep on going through this cycle. It seems to be getting worse. And if we take a look at the environment, we're definitely in an emergency, in a crisis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm right there with you. I hope we don't have to go through this very soon. I think having the drought of 2013, 2014, less than 10 years ago, on our heels, and then jumping right into this shows that there's no normal anymore, and we do need to prepare for the long term. So I can't tell you where it'll go necessarily, but I know that we will try our hardest at the staff level to move us forward to a more stable and secure place where our customers won't be moved through this cycle so drastically. But it also requires the engagement in years that aren't the drought. So just kind of putting that out there as well.
Thank you. Derek will be our last question. Go ahead, Derek.
Okay, hi. Yeah, I just really wanted to underline what Richard had said earlier, that it just seems like waiting to do anything is not an option. I mean, what I've heard is like 3 possible scenarios to deal with this problem. One was the desal, which seems like it doesn't really provide that much water from what you said. It's good, it's a piece of the puzzle, but then there's the pipeline, of course, which it seems like that has the complexity of the water, the water rights and all of that. I mean, that's obviously kind of a complicated thing. And then I heard mention of possibly addition, and you mentioned the problems with getting more storage in our watershed, but then I know there was talk of increasing storage somewhere in Santa Rosa, some kind of additional storage capacity up there that we could kind of partner with the Sonoma County Water District. Heard anything about that, about building an additional reservoir or underground storage up there, and we could team up with them to share that?
Yeah, they're looking at rehabbing a few of their groundwater wells right now, to assist with some of the ag out west. But yeah, it is challenging. It's challenging to know which is going to be the most successful. And I think long-term, Marin is very isolated from really key water supply, as we're seeing right now. So that's why we are looking very seriously at the pipeline across the bridge, as well as desal. And I mentioned the emergency for the drought, but that doesn't mean that we will not look at the long-term solution as well. It's just, what can we get built in the next year or two? Because that is actually a very different solution than a long-term solution.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it seems like what would be great is if it could be, I know for me as a member of the public, it would be helpful if there were some ongoing communication like, look, yeah, we all know that we are in the middle of an emergency situation, and I don't think any of us is feeling all that optimistic. And it's like, I think we all know that we can't count on things going back to what they used to be. There's just too much evidence to the contrary. So, I mean, I don't know, I as a member of the public feel like I would like to just hear on a regular basis, look, here's the things we're planning, here's what we're doing, here's the contracts we put out for engineering work to be done to figure this out. Otherwise, I don't know, you just feel like, wow, just is me taking a shorter shower really going to solve this problem? And I know I'm with you, conservation is great. You're right, it's the cheapest way to go, but it's not going to get us out of this mess, I don't think. I really don't. So anyway, that's my feedback for what it's worth.
I hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Derek, I want to I want to underline what you said. Lucy, this has been such an important moment in the life of our town to have a staff member just, just let your hair down and tell it like it is. But it is my hope that you will go back to decision makers and let people know exactly what Derek and Richard and many of us have said, which is basically be honest, put it out there, think long term, assume that it's going to be like this from now on. If it's not, we can always, pull back a little bit, but think long term, be realistic. And as I mentioned in our phone calls, I said, the Fed members are very, very well informed and are already conservationists. So I think we would really like some leadership from MMWD about, carving out what the new future will be. And I'm sure that you'll do that. So anyway, with this, now Jim Draper, I don't know if, Jim, are you there? I'd like to. Okay. Hey, Jim, before we say goodbye to everybody, I'd like you to just float our membership link. We are, as you know, an all-volunteer organization, and we are extremely happy to welcome a $10 annual membership from any and all of you. Be proud to have as many neighborhoods represented as possible. So please, as Jim puts the link in chat, please go online and you can pay online. It's not a requirement, but we certainly appreciate that. Meanwhile, without giving you a round of applause, Lucy, know how grateful we are that you came. And
Amy,
yes.
Can I interrupt you?
Who is this?
This is Nina Murphy from the Lincoln San Rafael Hill.
Yes.
I'm sorry I was late. I missed the presentation. I had computer issues. I didn't know how to click anyway, I would like to ask a question before she leaves.
Okay, go ahead. We have 3 minutes.
Go ahead.
Hit it.
Thank you, Lucy, for coming. I'm sorry I missed your presentation, but I'm on the same line as John Roas, and I'm wondering about all of our residents in our neighborhood are very concerned and are trying to conserve water as much as possible, and they see all these developments going up. Can we put our foot down and say, unless you've cut ground, you cannot develop? I'm sorry I missed the beginning, and what can I say?
It's okay. It's okay. So as I mentioned, but it's okay.
Thank you for helping.
Our board is considering, either direction or all directions at this point. And really what they're asking for is more information of how much water these new developments are using, what is the impact to our supply, what is the economic impact to the county and to the cities around it, because they know it's a major decision that could be made, and also, what is the timing, what is the long term, is there a sunset to that decision as well. So they had an item on the last board meeting on June 1st, and we will be taking back an informational item next Tuesday, so the 15th. So no decision will be made. And I encourage you to show up June 15th on Zoom, of course, 7:30, and voice to our board or speak to Director Schmidt on your own. And that is the best way.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your answers. I really do. Thank you for being here, Lucy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. And Jim, if you could stop the recording at this point in time, we're going to